the previous video, we finished up the short block and now it's time to install the heart of the engine. We worked with comp cams for just the right cam grind, and they helped us choose a hydraulic roller with 235 degrees of duration for the intake and 249 for the exhaust, both at 50 thousandths lift with a 108 degree lobe separation angle. This combination is from their Thumper line of cams, so it should sound pretty wicked along with making great power. Combined with the 1.6:1 ratio Comp Ultra Pro Magnum rocker arms we plan to use, valve lift will be 557 thousandths for the intakes and 542 thousandths for the exhaust. And to give us just a little bit more safety margin with this stroker package, Comp ground the cam for us on a reduced base circle, which should provide just a touch more clearance between the rods and cam lobes. After cleaning the cam, a little Joe Gibbs assembly grease will protect the distributor gear and assembly lube will go on the journals. And since this is a roller cam, regular motor oil is all that's needed for the lobes. The timing set we chose is a high-performance billet adjustable set from Elgin. It uses a bearing on the back to reduce wear and cut frictional losses. If you don't have a cam handle, the cam sprocket is also useful to help install the camshaft in the block. When you're down to the last few lobes, it can get difficult to gently maneuver the cam the rest of the way in without scraping up the bearings. All you have to do is install one of the bolts finger tight. Then you can use the sprocket to get a better handle on the cam as you slide it in place. I also like to leave the rear cam plug out of the engine until it's finished. That way you can reach around the back of the block and support the cam from both the back and the front as you slide it into position. By this point, I've already degreed in the cam and everything came out perfect. The timing set, along with the locking plate and the Elgin cam button, can all be installed for the final time. A little red Loctite before torquing the cam bolts to 20 foot-pounds and then folding over one of the tabs on the lock plate will help ensure the bolts won't ever be able to back out and ruin your valve train. I'd almost rather have a mouse in the house than put up with a leaky engine. So I always try to stay away from those cheap timing covers made from really thin steel. They always seem to warp as soon as you screw the timing cover bolts into place. I found this cover from Mr. Gasket. It's made from material that's nice and thick and it does a good job of sealing to the block. The bolts are from ARP and look a heck of a lot nicer than anything you'll find in a hardware store bolt bin. And I'm using a gasket from Mr. Gasket to seal the cover to the block. You have to be careful when choosing an oil pan for a stroker motor. Any open pan will probably be fine, but that's giving away free horsepower. This deep sump steel pan from Milodon has a power-saving windage tray and it's designed with enough clearance for our 4-inch stroke. Milodon also sent the pickup made specifically for this pan, and a really nice touch is the spacer welded over the top of the pickup screen that ensures there will always be a gap between the screen and the bottom of the pan so that the flow of oil to the pickup will never get blocked off. The oil pump is a new high-volume unit that's also from Elgin, and it should help ensure a steady flow of oil through the engine no matter what type of abuse we put it to later on. And instead of using a standard bolt, we're using a much stronger ARP stud kit made specifically for small block Chevys. Because the stud threads into the main cap only finger tight and it's the nut that secures the oil pump in place, the assembly is much less likely to distort the crankshaft housing bore than a bolt that's torqued into place. So, with motor oil lubricating the threads on the stud, the nut is torqued to 65 foot-pounds. All the gaskets for this build are coming from Mr. Gasket. This is the company's Ultra Seal rebuild kit, and we're using practically everything out of it except for the head gaskets. For that, we chose a set of Mr. Gasket's high-performance multi-layer steel gaskets, which provide a much better seal in high-performance applications. With the oil pan buttoned up, the engine can be spun back right side up, and my attention can go back to the front of the block. Although many builders will go ahead and bolt up the cylinder heads at this point, I prefer to install the damper next because it's easier to verify the timing marks are correct while you still have easy access to the pistons. Choosing an ATI damper for this build was practically a no-brainer. It's hard to argue with results, and ATI dampers are almost always on the front of engines produced by the top stock car and drag racing engine builders. This damper is also SFI approved, so it won't keep us off the track if we decide to have some serious fun later on with the car this engine is going into. ATI also sent along this billet timing pointer that's got to be just about the sexiest little gizmo you'll ever see. It's adjustable, so once it's installed, spin the engine over until the number 1 piston is at top dead center, and then move the pointer until it's over the 0 mark on the damper. Now when I was setting the pointer, I paid a little too much attention to the camera placement and not enough to what I was doing, and as you can see, I missed the mark a little bit. I went back and fixed my mistake, but forgot to turn the video camera back on. Still, you get the idea of how those little things like an adjustable timing pointer can really help your engine building accuracy. Don't forget to put a little Loctite on the bolt thread so that the pointer can't move. And since I was focused on the front of the engine, I went ahead and bolted up the edelbrock aluminum water pump too. The shiny look comes from a couple coats of clear coat I sprayed on, which will help keep dirt and grease from getting into the pores of the aluminum. Finally, an ARP crank bolt and washer is much stronger than trying to get by with a standard grade 8 bolt. And that's important in any engine that's going to be seeing much more time in the upper RPM ranges than your average family grocery getter. And that brings us to a great stopping point for this installment of our 427-inch stroker build. Next time we'll reveal the cylinder heads we plan to use, bolt them up, and hopefully complete the valve train as we inch ever closer to finally firing this bad boy up on the engine dyno.